Does it ever feel like everyone around you is getting richer, except you? Like somehow everyone has nicer things, better vacations, and more money? But here's the strange part. Many of the people who look rich are actually the ones going broke. In this video, I'm going to show you 7 reasons why you might feel behind financially, and the last one explains almost everything. The first reason you might feel behind financially is something simple, judging a book by its cover. A lot of people assume that the car someone drives reflects how wealthy they actually are, but that's not always true. Let me give you a quick example. Imagine you have about $600 a month to spend on transportation. You're a pretty reasonable person, so you decide to finance a used 2021 Toyota Corolla hatchback that costs around 25,000. Your car payment comes out to about 400 a month, and after gas, insurance, and other expenses, you're pretty close to that 600 monthly budget. Your goal is simple: pay the car off in 5 years and own it outright. Now, imagine one of your coworkers, let's call him Eric. One day you're both talking about finances, and Eric complains that his car payment is killing him. He tells you he's paying about 500 a month, but here is the confusing part. Eric is driving a 2025 BMW. When you look it up online, you see it costs over $50,000. So, how he is paying almost the same monthly payment as you? Well, the answer is simple. Eric isn't financing the car, he's leasing it. What he didn't tell you is that he put thousands of dollars down, his lease only lasts 3 years, his insurance is higher, and after the lease ends, he owns nothing. And on the surface, it looks like Eric is doing better financially. But when you look closer, he's actually just renting a lifestyle. And this is one of the easiest ways to trick your brain into feeling behind financially, because appearances rarely tell the full story. But cars are just the most visible financial decision people make. Next reason is much harder to see. The second reason you might feel behind financially is that spending habits are often invisible. Some people spend their money in ways that everyone can see, while others spend it in ways that almost no one notices. Imagine 2 different people. The first person invests money every month, builds an investment portfolio, and spends on experience like traveling or concerts and so on. The second person spends money on designer clothes, expensive bags, jewelry, and constantly upgrading their lifestyle. From the outside, the second person might look richer because their spending is visible. You can see the clothes, the bags, and the lifestyle. But the first person might actually be building real wealth in the background through investments and long-term financial decisions. One lifestyle looks rich, while other quietly builds wealth over time. And the truth is, this difference becomes even more confusing when social media enters the picture, because social media makes this problem even worse. The third reason you might feel behind financially is the social media illusion. Social media mostly shows the highlight reel of someone's life, not the full picture. You might see people constantly traveling, eating at expensive restaurants, or posting photos from beautiful destinations, and it can make it seem like they're living an incredibly wealthy lifestyle. But what you don't see is everything happening behind the scenes. I once knew someone who posted pictures from amazing trips around the world. From the photos, it looked very normal, famous landmarks, city views, and simple travel moments. But what people didn't realize was that she was actually flying private and staying in luxury villas and 5-star resorts. She simply didn't show those parts online. Many truly wealthy people keep their lifestyle quiet for privacy and security. At the same time, many luxury items you see online are actually bought using credit, but the real psychological trap is something even deeper. Another reason you might feel behind financially is something psychologists call upward comparison. As humans, we naturally compare ourselves to people who appear to be doing better than us, not those who might be struggling more. This happens all the time with things like job titles, salaries, and lifestyle. You might see someone on LinkedIn who became a vice president at a company and immediately feel like you are failing behind in your career. But titles can be very misleading. At one company, A vice president might manage hundreds of employees, while at another company, the same title might have responsibilities similar to a senior manager. The same goes for salaries and lifestyles. They rarely tell the full story. Instead of focusing on titles or appearances, it's much more useful to look at whether you're building valuable skills, growing professionally, and moving closer to your goals. But social media doesn't just distort wealth, it also distorts how fast people get rich. Another reason people feel behind financially is that the internet often makes success look instant. Online, you constantly see stories about someone turning a relatively small amount of money into a huge fortune in a very short time. For example, on forums like Wall Street Bets, you might see posts showing someone turning 80,000 into over a million in just a few days through trading. Seeing stories like that can make anyone question whether they're doing something wrong with their money. But the reality is that you are mostly seeing the wins, not the thousands of losses happening behind the scenes. For every person who posts a massive gain, there are many others who lose huge amounts of money and never share it. Some people even lose their entire saving trying to chase those results. In reality, building lasting wealth usually requires years of patience, discipline, and consistency, but even when people actually make a lot of money. Another reason it might seem like other people are ahead financially is that you often see the reward, but not the sacrifices behind it. Many high incomes come with intense trade-offs that aren't visible from the outside. For example, someone working on oil rig might earn a very high salary, but they could spend weeks or even months away from home working in difficult and sometimes dangerous conditions. The same thing can happen in careers like investment banking or high-level finance, where people early in their careers might work 80 to 100 hours a week just to reach those high salaries. From the outside, it might look like they suddenly became successful, but the reality is that their lifestyle often involves extreme stress, long hours, and very little free time. In many cases, the financial reward comes after years of sacrifice that most people never see, but even that isn't the full story. The final reason you might feel behind financially is something that often goes unnoticed: generational wealth. Some people simply start life several steps ahead because of the financial support or assets their families already have. This can come in many forms. It might be parents helping with a down payment on a home, inherited property that provides passive income, financial support during school, or simply a safety net that allows someone to take bigger risk in their career. From the outside, it may look like that person achieved success very quickly on their own, but in reality, they may have started the race much closer to the finish line. This doesn't mean they didn't work hard or deserved what they have. It simply means their starting point was different, and when you recognize that, you realize something important. You can't fairly compare your path to someone who began from a completely different position in life. When you put all of this together, it becomes much easier to understand why it can sometimes feel like everyone else is ahead of you financially. Appearances can be misleading. Spending habits are often invisible. Social media only shows the highlight reel, and many people are starting from completely different circumstances. Because of that, comparing your life to someone else can easily create the illusion that you are failing behind when you might actually be doing just fine. Instead of focusing on what other people seem to have, it's much more productive to focus on things you can actually control: your skill, your financial habits, and the progress you are making over time. Real wealth is usually built slowly and quietly. So, if you ever feel like you are behind, there is a good chance you are simply looking at the wrong scoreboard. But there is one mistake that keeps people financially stuck for decades, and almost everyone makes it without realizing. I'm going to explain exactly what is this in the next video, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching.